You would think a person would be happy about their achievements. You would think that they would be happy because they had all this success. But what happens to them?
What happens to them is they feel like a fraud. They feel like that their achievements was luck, or that they didn't earn it by themselves based on the merit that they were helped.
That they got help or it was luck?
And what is help or luck?
Okay. And so it wasn't their own abilities. That's what they thought. That it was just by.
By chance or by luck?
Okay. And what do you call that?
I call it imposter syndrome.
Ooh. Let's go to characteristics of imposters here. What do? They just like Dalton Thomas. They do what?
They doubt themselves even though they achieved so much. They don't celebrate their wins.
Eat not the smallest win.
Not even the smallest wins.
And so they have this constant fear of being what?
They have this constant fear of failure, and they're unwilling to try new things.
Wow. So
And avoiding new challenges, and avoiding getting that opportunity or that job or that travel opportunity, things like that, because they fear of failure.
they can't even take a compliment. You try to compliment them or try to give them
They think it's
praise.
over exaggerated, their praise. They think you're lying.
They think you're lying. They don't. They just don't think they deserve it, right?
Yeah.
Wow. And what about them working hard? What do they have? Why do they try to prove
They
themselves?
they try to prove themselves by overworking themselves to death sometimes, and making them tired, or working themselves to death to compensate the fact they feel inadequate.
That they feel inadequate. Okay. Now, do they compare themselves with other people?
They do compare themselves with other people, with other peers and workers, and bosses and executives. Yes. They do self-comparison to other people, which that is harmful as well. And sometimes we fuel that self-comparison as a society, unintentionally or intentionally.
So they end up and they, out of fear of failure, and so much of this pressure, they end up with having what?
Anxiety and depression.
Okay, anxiety, depression, stress, you know.
And
And
bad health problems because of feeling the imposter syndrome.
so, do they get isolated? Can they become isolated?
They become isolated because they think that they feel alone, because they feel like they don't feel that failure threat, which is a lot of people feel the same way. And they don't even reach out.
They don't reach out.
Yes.
Mm. So they got this illusion of being inadequate, and their success is in disguise. So no matter how you approach them and pat them on the back, they still feel what?
They still feel inadequate. They still feel like a failure.
So basically, they just got internal fraudulence, right?
They just got into what it is happening internally, not externally, but internally. They're looking for the validation outside, but you don't validate yourself on the inside. When you don't validate yourself on the inside, it can lead to disastrous consequences. Look what happened in November's election.
What happened?
When you don't validate yourself, you vote against not only your own interests, but against the common good.
So you think a lot of imposter syndrome happened in the election?
Yes, they did. 53% of white women, 46% of Hispanics, that's mostly male, 40 male of the Hispanics, and 20% of black people,
So they voted because they wasn't really what?
because they didn't have confidence in themselves or their own skill set. They voted against their own interests.
So they,
Against Kamala Harris, and voted back in the president, which is a convicted felon, which he has that braggadocious all the time.
so that's stop right there. You said braggadocious. So on the other side, on the Democrat side, they didn't do
They
what?
don't brag about their accomplishments. On the Republican side, they brag about their accomplishments, even if it hurts people.
Okay.
Like their tax cuts and things like that. They will lie. They will even make up something
Wow.
in confidence.
Advanced mistakes said what?
Advanced mistakes, they always lie and repeat that lie over and over again.
Okay. So we we even have different types of imposter syndrome. What's the perfectionist?
The professionalist is trying to look for something perfect. Nothing is perfect in life. There is going to be a lot of life lessons in life. Like when I was learning, one of my mentors, Mel Abraham, said about three things about mistakes. If you make a life lesson, if you make an error once, then that's a life lesson. When you make an error twice, that's a mistake. When you make it three times, you got a problem. Shout out to Mel Abraham.
All right. So you see that these people made this mistake and they made it in 20 what?
They
20.
made it in 2016 and they made it in 2024, which means you make a mistake twice. And there's going to be some deadly consequences of it, too.
So they just had a lot of self-doubt. They just didn't believe. They believed what the other person said and what?
They believed the other person said and ran away with it instead of thinking with themselves, instead of reading and believing in yourself.
Stop right there. You said reading. That's important because a lot of them didn't even take the time to what?
They didn't take the time to study or take the time to read. There's audiobooks now, okay? There's no excuse.
Well, um, maybe they just wanted to go on that person's word. Maybe they just felt that, he had a better story. Or, now it's kind of reversed because at one time he was saying how miserable they were on that side. And now all the speeches, Elon is basically saying what? You're going to have to what?
You're going to have to feel pain in the short term, right? What does Elon Musk say by feeling pain? What that really means in the short term is you're going to have to lose your job, lose your business in the short term, and that also cause habits in a relationship too, and higher prices and bankruptcy of farmers. That's short-term pain.
So they had the superhero. Now, this type of uh, imposter syndrome, they feel the need to what? Excel in every area. They don't think that they could, they have to overwork and they have to prove their self-worth. So what do you think about that?
When you're the superhero, you can't do everything at once. You just have to break down the task piece by piece by piece. And if the task is not important to you, just delegate. As a business person, delegate that task so you don't have to be the superhero in the first place.
You got the natural genius. They believe that what? They believe they should perform effortless and feel inadequate if they struggle.
Here's the thing about being a super genius. When you're trying something new, you're supposed to suck at it. You're learning. That's part of the learning process. For example, like me, I struggle to learn Portuguese and Spanish, and I don't learn how to swim, but I'm doing it. I'm learning. That's part of the learning process.
So are you saying you suck at it?
You're supposed to suck at it. That's supposed to do. That's part of life.
Okay. The soloists, they prefer to what?
They prefer to be on their own. Now here's the thing about a soloist. They tend to work alone and they feel fraudulent if they don't ask for help. As a soloist, you should ask for help, but the right type of help, that the person that you can trust. If you ask somebody for help and they have an agenda, you could end up like Rudy Giuliani.
Ooh, and and what happened to Rudy?
Rudy Giuliani used to be a U.S. attorney and the former mayor and the most respected mayor of New York. I didn't ever respect Rudy Giuliani in the first place, but that's another story for another time. But then when he fell in line with Donald Trump, the president, he ruined his reputation in his career. And now he's about to be bankrupt and be homeless for the rest of his life. That's what happens when you ask for the wrong help with the agenda. Or Michael Cohen that went to jail for the president.
He learned his lesson.
He learned his lesson.
He tried to tell everybody, that if you go this route, you're going to have to what?
You're going to have to go to prison or you're going to lose your reputation if you don't find. So to the soloist, asking for help is the right thing, but it also meaning the right help and the right people.
Then you got that expert. The expert believe they got to know everything and feel inadequate if they don't have all the answers. Who got all the answers?
I'm going to talk to you, coastal elites. They're the coastal elites and the college professors that think, oh, I know everything. And that it's beneath me to you in the third or fifth grade level. Well, guess what? That led to the president in the first place.
Because they what?
Be-
Didn't break.
they didn't break it down or make it understand to them, and it's like a middle finger to them. And they're just saying, like, I have news said, fuck you. Yes.
Oh, I'm glad you got through most of the video.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's their attitude. We hate experts. We don't respect you.
Okay, so how does imposter syndrome differ from various demographics such as the gender, age, and culture of the background?
Let me tell you how it's going to be different, because women feel more about imposter syndrome more because they're deeply and emotional, whereas men, when they feel imposter syndrome, they scream, they yell, there's more outer, whereas women is inner.
So now the research says that women often experience imposter syndrome and more intensely due to societal pressure and gender stereotypes. Now they said individuals from uh, unrepresented backgrounds may feel uh, heightened to imposter feelings stemming from systemic biases.
Yeah, systemic bias and systemic racism.
Okay, and age can play play a big factor in the role of
Age discrimination as well, because we're fueling imposter syndrome by getting rid of programs that try to correct racial wrongs or age wrongs. And that's what's fueling it in the first place. And by doing comparison and contrast, like parents intentionally or unintentionally compare contrast with one child to another, or teachers comparing another student right there. That's harming them as well.
And then they said with younger professionals and others feeling insecure in new environments compared to more experienced individuals.
And you're going to feel insecure when you look for that new job. You're going to feel insecure, or going to that new place when you're learning different language and different cultures, or if you're learning a new skill like fishing and swimming and other types of skill sets.
Okay.
Or riding a bike. It's like you're riding a bike. You're supposed to fall. But you fall, you learn from it. It's part of the learning process.
Okay. So they got strategies of coping mechanisms that can help individuals overcome feeling of being, inadequate associated with imposter syndrome. And some of the strategies is saying we need to either rework or edit our thoughts, or they call it reframing negative thoughts, seeking support from mentors or peers.
That's very important. Finding the right mentors too. And like going to your local library and finding mentors, or reading books that can really mentor you. So that way you don't have imposter syndrome, because a lot of people with imposter syndrome, they felt the same way you did too.
And they don't celebrate what?
They don't celebrate success, even small success. You got to celebrate the small wins, because the small wins will add up to the big wins down the road.
Okay, so then they said mindfulness and cognitive behavior may help manage anxiety related to these feelings. And when you say mindfulness,
that means meditating, sometimes listening to music. I listen to a lot of soul music, like listening to calm soul music. That's one way.
Okay. So that's how you manage your anxiety?
That's how I manage my anxiety. Also, too, I read. And then how I also manage my anxiety, I look for opportunities to be uncomfortable.
Okay.
So on purpose.
Is that putting you out your comfort zone, or?
It's putting me out my comfort zone, but in a controlled way. But in the right comfort zone, in the right way.
All right. So I think we covered imposter syndrome, and we saw a lot of that during the election. So, because a lot of people kind of felt that, this person had all the answers.
This person has all the answers, and the president, because it's cutting my eggs down to egg prices, which is going up.
But basically saying that, not so much about the egg prices, that what you're just saying, policy that they
that policy.
but they thought that he might be able to resolve all the issues coming in.
I alone that can fix it. No, you can't. That don't work like that. That's not where our system works.
Okay, so we got, so here we are with imposter syndrome, and we have people that basically have to learn how to.
How to rely on themselves and not look for a savior. Because stop looking for a savior. Stop looking, rely on yourself. Be that man in the mirror.
Okay.
Be that. If you're that change, you're that change. If you're not happy about your life, do everything you can change it. Like if you're not happy with the way the Democrats are going, take over your local party, join the local Democratic Party, and change it.
Okay.
Don't be sitting on your ass.
All right. So basically, we had we got the self doubt with the imposter syndrome. We got the the luck factor. The outside external factors that's saying, hey, um, it was just luck.
It's not just luck, you create luck. Luck is just creative.
Or they got help from other people and they didn't give credit to themselves.
And you gotta help you gotta give credit to yourself. You can have other people, but you gotta give credit to yourself first and foremost before you credit other people.
And then we had the fear of exposure, when the person worries that they're not capable of doing the job, or
It's a natural feeling. If you're trying something new, it's a natural feeling, a new opportunity. But turn that feeling into excitement.
okay, you got the perfectionism. You got uh, high standards, so high standards that you set a unrealistic
And an
goal.
unrealistic goal. When you set a goal, break it down to pieces. First, like the Miss Luker's theory, where my grandma Luker taught me, just step by step process.
Into little intimate parts.
Into little intimate parts. 30, 60, 90-day processes.
Oh, okay. So, so that way, when you break it down, and even if you fail,
Even if you fail, you tried.
yeah,
And the real definition of failure is when you quit and when you don't try at all. That's the definition of failure. That's an instance of regret.
okay. So we got when you discount praises, then that means that, again, the compliments, you can't take them, whether it's positive feedback or not. No matter what somebody try to tell you how good you are, if you don't feel like
If you don't feel good, nobody else is going to feel good for you. Reward yourself. Reward yourself first. Compliment starting with yourself. And listen to Miley Cyrus's Flowers. If you're really, really, if you don't feel like yourself, listen to Miley Cyrus's Flowers. I could give myself flowers.
oh, okay. So
That's another one I would listen to, Nugget.
we gotta really try to avoid the emotional stress, because that emotional stress causes what?
It causes a lot of health problems and bad habits like the drinking and the smoking and the vaping.
Okay. So still in all, with imposter syndrome, the basic thing is we don't want to get into a situation where we're isolated, because
When isolation is a kiss of death. That's what it is. There are a lot of people that feel the same way that you do. You just got to reach out to those people, but reach out to the right person that don't have no agenda.
and then so you have this buildup of fraudulence, and then you get to a point where when you don't feel like people have that same feeling, then that's when you alienate yourself.
Yeah, you alienate yourself.
So I think we covered everything in imposter syndrome. Would you got some last feedback on it?
My last feedback on this is when you feel like you're in imposter syndrome, one of the first things you have to do is just read, reward yourself with kindness and self-compassion. That is very, very important. Like, for example, like me, for example, when I feel like I don't know something, I read, I look for mentors, I find the right, I try to find the right groups on social media like meetup.com, which is ALUX, Facebook groups, which is pretty good for that if you find the right administrators that don't have no agendas.
Okay. So, is there anything else you want to add?
Anything else that I want to add? When you feel like you have this imposter system, and another thing, and the last thing I'm going to say, stop looking for a savior. Like I'm going to do like, stop looking for a savior and look to yourself for your own self-interest.
A lot of times, it's okay to be vulnerable,
It's okay to be vulnerable. I'm not saying that. It's okay to be vulnerable.
but
But
other people
stop.
can't what?
But other people cannot solve that problem. Only you can be that change. Stop looking for other people that has changed. Stop, whether it's a politician or a job or a business, look to your, or even a content creator. Look to yourself, okay?
And what Michael Popak said, you just can't trust what?
You just can't trust you. And like Steve Smith even said, you can't trust politicians. You can't trust business. You got to trust yourself, because if you trust other people, we get this result on November 5th with the president over Kamala Harris, and you get laid off like GM employees.
All right. So, on that note, you're out.
Yes.